I thought it was really interesting on the call, the Fashion Roundtable call that was earlier this week, and you were talking about the tech academy you're doing in Leicester, and obviously I know the tailoring academy in Tottenham has been amazing and super instrumental, and we talked about the T levels by 2025. Obviously those people will start coming through, and you said that right now, you know, the amount of vacancies that you have for people to take the roles of machinists and stuff in your factories is a real issue. Is that something that you think is one of the more striking things about right now, is there's such a demand for the amount of UK manufacturing, but the skill is probably a bigger missing piece than people are putting enough attention on?
Yeah, I think we've constantly got 30 jobs, and actually now that we've opened in Wales as well, we've probably got close to 50 jobs at any one time that is available, all for skilled machinists. And I think the biggest heartache in all of this is the lack of respect or admiration that the stitchers themselves have. I mean, I can't stitch. I wouldn't know where to begin. And if you could only just see the quality of the work that the ladies make, both in Wales as well as in the London factory, which is 95% East European, then it's such a skill. And there seems to be this stigma by the occupation shortage list, whereby if you're not earning significant monies over 25,600, then you're just regarded as unskilled. And it's just so untrue. I think it's frustrating. And then I don't think people appreciate how long it takes to become a skilled machinist either. It's not about doing a level 1 course, which is 6 weeks, a level 2 course, which is 12 weeks, and thinking, you know, we're good to go. It takes years. It takes years to understand what those pieces of material are like, you know, what is the sleeve head, understanding that there's 2 notches at the back, 1 notch at the front, so you can differentiate how those pieces are fitted together. And then it's the speed of the ladies and the accuracy, so you can't pull viscose elastane. And I just find it sad. There seems to be that sort of Mike Baldwin attitude of Coronation Street, that, you know, and then all the bad press about the dirty factories throughout UK. I'm not singling out Leicester at all. I just think it's created this really sad environment that garment manufacturing is back in the dark ages, and that's so far from reality.
And so do you think it's like with like small and large brands, because obviously you work with quite a wide array of people, like in terms of who they are and where their position is. Have you seen the kind of behavior on either side of that kind of aisle over the past sort of 5 years towards wanting to kind of up the amount they're doing inside of the UK, or has it been just the kind of, is that starting to bubble up more based on the kind of economic situation we're in now? Do you see a drive towards brands wanting to make more close to home?
I think lots of factors have come into play. COVID obviously is one of them, and the fact that garment manufacturing was regarded as one of the sectors that could carry on working. Then Leicester was hit by COVID, so they closed down. So our demand in March and April went through the roof.
Right.
And then we started making PPE. We got a contract via Mike Stoll at Private Wise. And, you know, suddenly we were at full capacity, and we haven't been at full capacity for a long time. And then that triggered a new wave of retailers coming to us and asking for prices. And we probably had 4 or 5, you know, big brands coming to us asking for cross costings. And now it gets frustrating. Right now, it's a bit like, okay, so this is what you get for working in the UK with an ethical factory. You get full transparency. You know who made what garment. You're adding to the economy. It's less carbon footprint. You're using local factories. So that multiplier effect in the economy is now ginormous.
Right.
Well, then please don't compare us to Turkey. Don't compare us to a vertical operation. Do not compare us to Romania, where we know they're supposed to be part of the EU minimum wage, but actually that is not always the case. So we've now got a situation where a buyer is chasing margin, and, you know, that's what they're there for. I was an ex-senior buyer for the Arcadia Group. I chase margin. But it's not that decision. Now, this decision is higher up the chain. whether that's buying director or even at board level, to make a commitment to working in the UK. And for that, you get total flexibility, you get smaller quantities, you get the social impact as well of just being on the doorstep, so pop in and everything we say we're doing. And I think it's quite frustrating. This is not talked about enough at the moment, that there has to be a step change with the retailers, and perhaps they could stop looking at chasing the price to the bottom of the glass and think bigger about lean manufacturing and what it offers. A factory can't survive on, right, we're going to give you 5,000 units this week and we'll not give you any next week, and we might give you some in a couple of weeks' time when COVID's got better. We need continuum, and when you don't get that, a factory can't work.
Obviously with Tottenham, you know, and well, I mean, London and Tottenham specifically, obviously, I think it's interesting the way you are inside of Tottenham, and there is a residential community, you know, on the adjacent streets, obviously, though it's kind of part of an industrial sort of mini park kind of thing, isn't it? Which is oftentimes where we see this work being placed. How do you kind of see, because obviously Tottenham's very much, or North London, Haringey more broadly, is kind of in the beginning and a development stage, I guess. Like, how do you see manufacturing like yours kind of sitting inside of these kind of new residential areas and populations, like, and the visibility of it is, I think, really important, that people see that the work is happening, they're good jobs and there's skill and craft, and it's not this sort of dark arts thing that it kind of became. How important do you think that is?
I think it is important. I mean, ironically, Haringey was always very big on manufacturing. It's always had a huge presence, and that's why we moved there, because we could have gone anywhere. We could have gone to Hackney, Kent, you know, anywhere around the M25. So we went there because we knew that there was a labour market. And I think the pressure on affordable houses, the pressure on urbanisation has meant that there are less and less industrial estates. But thank the good Lord, Haringey Council have stuck to their guns and they've kept Crusader Estate going. I mean, we put a lot of effort into the design of the Tailoring Academy. So this was a programme with the GLA, and you know, we've made it. In fact, it's won an award, an architectural award for best business conversion. So I think that's what we need to do. You know, we need to make it attractive. We need to open our gates. I know in America they have a manufacturing day where all the manufacturers will literally open their doors, encourage schools to come, so manufacturing is on the agenda. And we certainly need to do something like that. We should be very proud of our manufacturing heritage.
Yeah, because I remember when I came to the Tailoring Academy opening and stuff, and it was just the energy was amazing, and people are so like, it's when the people are in that room, and I think it's you know, we talked about in conversations before, like whenever they shoot to factories in BBC News and stuff, it's just the images they choose just don't feel like real to me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's just, that's not the energy that I got from your guys' work. And I think if that was presented in black and white, like, forgive the pun, it would feel like much more of an exciting thing for a young person to want to get involved with. Mentoring is obviously, in that fashion capital and stuff, is huge, and it's a big part of what you guys do. But do you think, is it, as much as it's the skill of going through that kind of area, is it having people to look up to, like in fashion, that, you know, when they're in school, if they go to you know, a fashion school, they kind of look up to a designer, like a head designer or something like that? Do you think it's about as well just going like, who's put in the work on the pattern cutting table? Like, how is that kind of, do you think those mentors are more important for kids to look to in the kind of coming years? Do you think that's an important step to make?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been the missing link, really, is that it's great to have an illustration, it's great to do 3D design, but who has the skill to make that a reality? You know, everybody in that garment life cycle process, even like the finishers, the pressers, the cutters, the pattern cutters, they are all so highly skilled. And I don't think secondary schools have the knowledge to understand what the garment life cycle is. I mean, we need to get into schools more, we need to prepare them. And I think the T levels is the step forward, you know, and giving us team parity from a T level to an A level. But I think it still needs more. It's interesting that we've been speaking to UKFT and sort of speaking to John West, who's a great guy, and saying, come on, like, where's the big marketing to get manufacturing certain products really on the map? And I think now that there is more demand, it was only this week it broke about 36,000 containers are stuck in Hong Kong. The cost of the containers gone up from $1,700 to $4,000. I mean, these must be having monumental effects on the cost price itself.
Yeah.
And yet, that's what I was sort of saying earlier, the buyer is not interpreting that they're not seeing that is a major cost that's going up, as well as processing and also the carbon footprint.
Those conversations you're having with like industry bodies and what have you, are those currently the kind of easiest ways for you to develop more, or like, you know, because you're a very well regarded name, you know, so say in 5 years, if an up and coming company like wanted to be like Fashion Enter, you know, you've built relationships over such a long time that now it's probably...
How old?
I mean,
How old? No, but it's true. I've been around the block a long time now, but you are right. I mean, I would encourage anybody, absolutely anybody, to go into manufacturing. And you know, that big jump from being a buyer to a manufacturer. I mean, God, I didn't have a clue. You know, there were lots of tears before bedtime, making that transition. But I don't regret it. And it's people like Caroline who's going to give you a guided tour of the factory. I mean, she's my production director. We've been working together for 8 years. I'm going to say this. When she first joined, she tried to resign twice. I wouldn't let her. I was holding on to her legs. No, you're not going. You're not going. And amazing. You know, it's such a culture shock making in the UK, and you're constantly juggling like all this work-life balance. You don't have one. I mean, actually, you must know that as well, Patrick. Oh, yeah. I mean, when you run your own business, you're doing it because there's a passion, and you actually want to be free to make your own decisions. You know, live and die by the sword. And sure. I just think that if anyone out there, you know, is looking at opening a fashion studio or manufacturing, I'd really encourage them to do it. And, you know, Patrick, perhaps for the future, we could do workshops and seminars to encourage people to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, share the love, so to speak.
Exactly. Because I think if you think potentially for London anyway, it's much harder to find spaces like yours in Tottenham.
Yeah, it is.
You know, now more than ever, and it's going to probably get near impossible potentially soon. So do you think the idea of smaller, like more micro factories which could serve a less high quantity, like a lower minimum order, like a quicker turnaround, because there isn't going to be places like Fashion Enter's size potentially for much longer, if ever? Like for you, like if you were starting out again, would that be a nice position to be in, or do you still feel like I need the big spaces that I've had before, because I think that's the best way to serve the kind of wider needs?
Yeah, it's a very good point. We started off with the fashion studio. So we used to call it the workshop. So we started off with that. We had about 4 girls, and went to 8 girls. And then, you know, it was a casual conversation with Nick Robertson saying, you're going to need a factory one day because you need to be, you know, quick response. He said, how much do you think you need? And I wasn't going to lose that opportunity. So I sort of said, I think at least $250,000. And they gave us £230,000 to start the factory, you know, so how lucky were we? And then I felt like a horrendous pressure. You know, I very much believe that your word's your bond. So if you're going to say something, you do it. Let's not, you know, make false promises ever. Yeah. So, you know, that monumental pressure of, oh my God, this has got to work, really kicked in. And I think, oh God, I would say probably for certainly the first 9 months, they were hideous. Wow. I just remember not sleeping and walking around my bedroom at 2 a.m. And then for the first 2 years, it's just constant learning, you know. But I think you just have got to, I think we're lacking resilience and a bit of grit and dedication sometimes, real determination. And I think that the team that we have now at Fashion Enter, my God, I couldn't do without any of them. They are fantastic. But if people are thinking about opening up that fashion studio and starting small scale, absolutely. I wouldn't give up the factory though. You know, there's a bit of a crack with the factory, and I love that. I love the fact that you like your routine and you move as one. And I probably see that more with Wales. All the girls that are there, and there's about 6 guys, they're all ex-Laura Ashley. So they all work for Laura Ashley, like Rachel, the supervisor, for 44 years. I mean, it would have been so criminal to let all that talent go. That's why we opened the factory.
Yeah. I mean, what service you've done taking those people on, honestly, that's...
But if you met them...
I'm sure,
I mean,
I'm
how
sure.
could you not? Yeah, you know, it's just like, these are human beings that lost their job, and it was through no fault of their own. I mean, it was just so tragic, and I think I was so touched by their kindness of Anwin making those cakes. I've always said it's your fault you made the cakes. And I was just like, oh, that's so kind. So all those business plans that you're supposed to do and all that, you know, forecasting, it all went out the window because it was just like, you know what, we have to do something. Yeah, it's easy not to do things.
And if you think of, you know, so the 3 sort of subsectors I've said, like, you know, the consumer of fashion products, whether the general population, designers, and then kind of government level, but it's starting with the consumers, like how, which I think is kind of a difficult question a little bit, but how do you feel like the general fashion consuming population or the general population could further support people like yourselves and in generations to come, future yous who create kind of fashion manufacturing in England? How could they engage?
Yeah, I think there has been a step change. I think, you know, some of the statistics that come out about pollution, landfill, the water consumption to make denim, I mean, it's all out there in the domain now. And I think sustainability has to be combined with being ethical. I think so. It's the 2 areas are in tandem. I think there is a strata of the public that are not bothered, quite frankly. You know, they want to, pre-COVID, they want to go out on a Friday night. They don't have much disposable income. So, you know, if you're unemployed and you're on 70, 80, 90 quid, depending on your universal credit, then to buy a top for a tenner, it's still a sizable chunk of their money. And I don't think we should be discerning to those people. I don't think we shouldn't be judgmental to those people. I think those that have got affordable income and can afford to pay possibly a slightly more premium price for a product, well then great, good luck to you. But there's always been low, mid and high price points in fashion. And I think that the way manufacturing is going now, we can become even more cost effective. So we're working at the moment with a micro factory. I don't know if you've heard about this. So in New York, there's a micro factory, and you can print onto fabric very ethically, and you can make one garment. So it's called a custom gateway. So you make the garment, you print the pattern, like a design, onto the pattern, and then you can automatically cut the fabric out, and then you've got your stitches at the end, putting that garment together. So we've been working with Corny on this new idea, and we're hoping we'll be able to go live with that sort of April time. Amazing. And we'll be doing one-piece flow. So nothing is more sustainable than that. You're making one garment for one person. So I think that shows the consumer voice more than ever, that they also want to be more involved in the design process. That, you know, they don't want to be as homogenous as the high street has been. I also think that sobots are not that long away. I know America's supposed to be more advanced than we are, but we are as in the UK, and we're talking to various organisations about robotics and what can we do.
Does that worry you at all?
Yeah, it does. It does, because I just know how skilled you have to be. And I'm thinking about those sort of pincers that have to pick up silks. And I'm thinking, oh, how they're not going to damage it? Like, that's why I think we're a long way away from sobots, but we're not so long away from automatic packing machines, which I think they are, you know, they're available now. So I think the pressure really should be on the retailer to invest into manufacturing, because that's where the margin is. If you know, whatever people may say about Boohoo are going ahead, and they have their own factory that they're going to set up in Leicester. And actually, they're the only factory I know. I think Next have got one overseas, but they're the only retailer I know that are investing into that concept of being completely vertical. And I think good on you on that one, because then they will have transparency in their supply chain. They are going to have to pay the market rates. They will be investing into their staff. So I think they're going to actually start a new segment of vertical integration.
The designer side of things, obviously, as I said earlier, you work across a broad kind of section. And I guess the most obvious point is, more people look around your area and see who is doing production that could support you, rather than instantly just thinking go overseas. And I think that's something that, in speaking to other people who have got smaller setups than you, oftentimes the common thread is when a designer comes in, they say, I wasn't even really sure that I could get this done in England.
Yeah, it's true.
And so that's mind blowing, but obviously we're in the industry, so we sort of think, oh, how could they not know? But these are designers who have been studying in London for years. So I think what's for designers coming up in England or elsewhere, how can they, beyond, just literally coming and having those conversations and doing production with you, what could they do to support more localized kind of production in their area and having that proliferate? Is it just demand will naturally mean that more spaces have to come, or is it about are there other little things that you think they could be doing?
I certainly think the BFC could do more. I think the BFC, that's the pinnacle of the designer sector. I think they should be engaging far more with manufacturers, understanding how clustering works, having more knowledge. We've tried to engage with them a couple of times over the last 5-7 years, coming up with ideas about doing workshops and seminars. And I've given up, quite frankly, trying to have that engagement. And I think that's a waste. I really do, because I know the standard of the work that we've got, the fact that we've got £230,000 invested in 3D Optitex, which is like avatars. So the process of design has really changed. And I think we're the only factory in the UK that's got a leading status in the fast forward audit. So, there's a lot that we can offer, but it has to be a two-way conversation.
Conversation we had with Roundtable, or the points you've made many a times, I think you've got great ideas for how things could happen from the top. And I think last year, with government financial intervention across the board, when the virus hit and people needed supporting, obviously some people, well, unfortunately quite a few people fell through the cracks. But how do you feel looking at a 5-10 year vision, what things do you think would be the most put the kind of foot down on accelerating the work that you guys are doing and people could be doing in the future to make it more financially beneficial, make it more logistically possible? Are there things that the government could be putting in place?
Yeah, I certainly think PPE actually opened my eyes. I've been working now with the factory 15 years, and we've always had, it's frenetic. It's absolutely frenetic. No 2 days are the same. There's always something happening, good and bad. And then suddenly we have PPE contracts where we were making the same garment and we were doing up to 20,000 a week. I mean, it was glorious. We were skipping around the factory. It was just, everybody was happy. And of course, if you've got 20,000, you're getting faster and faster and faster. So we were very grateful to Private White. And then, you hear all these horrendous stories of cronyism occurring in the Conservative Party, and then there's millions and millions, if not billions, of PPE that's been imported and it's stored in containers, and you just think, what a waste for UK manufacturing. That is such a huge opportunity for lots of different contracts. And then I think we need real help with research and development. So, for example, recently I found out there was an Innovate UK bidding round for 20 million and 10 million. So I don't, this is like too big for us. I appreciate that. But, you know, we've got a case here. We're an SME, you know, we're based in Wales. We will be in Leicester. We'll also be in London. So surely to God, we should be able to have a voice here. It shouldn't always go to the British aerospaces of this world. What about the SMEs and the micro businesses? Like we've got a case to make here, and it's been quite hard trying to navigate that big funding environment, but we're not giving up. You know, we've made our case, but I think that those funding streams need to be far more open, and also we've written many bids over the years, and some we've been successful at, some we haven't, and they take forever. Yeah. I mean, you know this, Patrick.
Yeah.
And there is an art to bid writing, and I know that people get paid to write bids, you know, or they get percentages of the money. And I think it's very unforgiving the way that those bids are actually tick scored. I think there needs to be a little bit more generosity for the little guys again. And I say that to all the people out there that have been in that position of bid writing. So I think that could be relaxed. And I think that I'm still smarting that we didn't get the machinists onto the occupational shortage list. I just thought that was tragic. So I think that is one area that still needs to be looked at, and I think Tamara's done a fantastic job on that. And then the other area is we're in the most ridiculous situation that we're very good at skills, and credit to the tutors, credit to the GLA for giving us the money, Haringey Council, the Welsh Government. And now we don't have any money called AEB, the Adult Education Budget. So we had 2 contracts with 2 colleges, I won't say who they were, and both of these colleges lost money last year. And as a result of that, all the subcontracted services they brought back into house, which I totally understand. But it meant that we have got all this demand, and I'm not exaggerating. We have loads of people who want our courses, and we had no money to draw down for the teachers to do those qualifications. So it's £750 for a level 1 and £1,200 for a level 2, and we had nowhere to go. And I just thought that's just ridiculous. So we've got all this demand, we've got our own jobs, and we couldn't find anybody to sort of support us on that money. So again, I think the government needs to be much wiser and support the smaller subcontractor.